everybody, today we are going to be showing you how to do a hands-on activity about the water cycle. So this one's pretty simple. It's going to use materials that you should already have in your house, so you don't even have to go out and get things, and it doesn't take a really long time, so it has a very quick payoff for your kids, which is super awesome, especially when you're learning at home and you're adjusting to all this craziness. So for this one, all you're going to need is a clear glass full of water. Any temperature water works, hot, cold, room temperature. It does not affect the experiment. I'm using room temperature water because it's what I had on hand. So you're going to fill up your glass and you're going to leave the top inch empty for later. Now it is important that this is a clear glass or else the kids aren't going to be able to see the experiment. Other than our glass of water, you are going to need shaving foam, not shaving cream, and then you're going to need food dye. Any color works. I have chosen blue just because we are doing the water cycle, but if all you have is yellow, that's going to have the same effect, don't worry. For those of you who don't remember or just simply forgot, there are 3 steps to the water cycle, and that is evaporation, condensation, and precipitation. So this experiment is going to focus more on the last 2 steps into showing how when condensation gets too much that it turns into precipitation. Evaporation happens when the temperatures start to rise and water particles heat up and they turn into gas. So evaporation happens in Arizona mainly from our lakes. So like Lake Pleasant, Saguaro Lake, those are our biggest sources of evaporation. And then after it rains, all those puddles, those also evaporate back into the atmosphere. So as all this water evaporates, it goes up, up, up into the cloud layer, and then it condenses into clouds when it gets cold. And then the more water that condenses into clouds makes it feel like it needs to rain because the clouds are getting heavy and they need to release some of this water so they're not as heavy. So we are going to be showing you what we mean when we say the clouds get heavy. Like, what does that mean? So we're going to take our shaving cream. Now, excuse me, this sometimes makes a very terrible noise, so for any headphone listeners, be warned. There we go. Okay, so once we have our shaving cream in our glass, we're going to take our fingers and we're going to smush it down a little bit so we can't see any of the water. Just so we get a very nice full cloud coverage. And then we're going to wipe off our hands. Because while shaving cream is not toxic, it is not something we probably want to get all over our house. So, there we go. It's a little better at least. So now, here in this glass we have our cloud layer. So right now nothing's happening. We have no rain in our glass because our cloud's not very heavy. We can tell this as it sits very nicely on top of our water. So this dye represents our water condensing into the atmosphere. So as we add water to our shaving foam, what do we think is going to happen? It's going to start to get heavy. So the heavier it gets, the more likely that it's going to have to rain. So as I keep adding food dye, you're going to start to see the dye falling into the water. This is a very brief explanation of the water cycle, and I'm sure your kids now are going to have a million questions that you might not know how to answer. And if you don't, there's a really great resource at nasa.gov